It's hot. This is January 1990. This is fun, writing with friends in mind who have received weird letters in the past. We've evolved into a sort of a team. I write any fool thing, and you bother to read. The reading might get interesting somewhere in the letter, and in any case, my motives are pure, if not my prose. Twice I've been told that these are not even letters at all, but rather a personal purge. Well, of course, I had things on my mind. Do you recall when I wrote about Tina buying a dryer? The dryer is now on the back porch, and Tina mentions just every little occasionally how wisely and frugally she uses it and what a blessing it is. And each time I agree, it's all true for Tina, and I don't even recall my specific and heartfelt objections. Old feeling purged, it just doesn't matter anymore. The same is true of all sorts of stuff that had rattled and rattled in my head. I'd write out to all of you what circled and buffeted my thoughts, and once it was on paper, it's out of mind and it doesn't matter anymore. Purged, no understanding or speculation battering to get out of my head, yet I still want to write to you. This will be a letter writing on a different plane since I don't know where we're going. This is exciting. Do you feel the paper pulse in your hands? It's surging with energy on this end, powered with the excitement that anything could be written. When you read my summary of Ecclesiastes, did you wonder why a book that says over and over again that nothing is important, that everything is vanity, is included in the Holy Scripture of over half the world's people? Or why would it rattle out of my brain and into a letter to you? That's where we poise together now, utter unimportance stretching away in all directions, and all thoughts simply vanity. Anything can be written. Anything? Sure. My thought is not bounded by consideration of sanity, so the field is wide open. Anything might show up in this paper, and when you read it, if you think about it, it's in your mind too. Now, does the paper surge in your grasp? Tina, my wife and soulmate, is doing fine. When she came to California 15 plus years ago, she barely spoke English, and she didn't know anyone here besides me, and she hadn't seen me in more than 4 years, and she had known me for only about 4 weeks at that time. She was bold to come, but did tell me after a couple of years that she had a cache set by in case I turned out to be a jerk and she had to escape. The past November, she passed the test to become a citizen of the United States. She's currently enrolled in a math class at Fresno City College. She is using tools to take care of simple tasks like putting up shelves and hanging blinds, and a few days ago, when the muffler fell off the car, she didn't call me to ask what to do, but simply took the car into the shop. I asked her, I said, "What happened, Tina? Did you just decide to take control of your life?" And she answered in perfect English, "Yeah." Recently, we were chatting after the children were in bed, and she told me that she and Amy, almost 11, had been selecting from Amy's baby clothes, some to keep, some for charity. Tina laughed to tell me that Amy had chosen to keep for her imagined daughter to be in the future the frilly dress that she herself didn't like to wear when it fitted her. Now it was my turn to laugh. The image of the two of them seated side by side divvying up infant clothes for a little girl of their dreams is at once so foreign to me, yet sweet, I had to laugh. Tina and Amy don't mind my laughing. They know it's not malicious. They're both maternal, and it really is a mystery to me. They are my equal in being persons with the same right to life, liberty, and happiness, and the same responsibility to take care of oneself. But beyond that, in some unreachable depth of the soul, they are maternal. Equal, but different. I'm very comfortable with the concept today, but it was not always so. From Delano High School through a hitch in the Air Force and graduating from Long Beach State, I was hard partying, hard drinking, Big E from Big D, sport and womanizer. Without a thought, I was white, male, macho, American. It was no simple matter to abandon the various and many shallow roles I thought were me, but by good luck, I started university in the late 1960s at the time when national sales spokespersons, as well as women I met personally, were pointing out that I was less than a full person if I suppressed my feminine nature. Also, among the old sports and rednecks and playboys that I knew or knew of, most seemed unsatisfied, if not unhappy, and none were close to rapture, so I could see an advantage in abandoning my known identities. Finally, what was being touted about being a whole person was rational and logical. I began to change. I quit caring about sports as participant or fan. This was fairly easy to do because when you consider it, taking games seriously is just that, taking games seriously. Abandoning hard drinking, hard partying, Big E from Big D, Delano Macho Man, took much longer, but it wasn't that fun and I wasn't that hard, so goodbye to all of that. Harder yet to lose was the materialistic playboy ideal of fashionable dress and fashionable transportation and pursuit of nameless nubile girls. Yet by the time I moved to Chico, California in the late spring of 1973, my plan was to settle and live a quiet life, accumulating neither goods nor sexual conquests. But hey, maybe it was the times and maybe it was something in the air, but women in Chico grabbed at me and offered themselves to me, and although I was trying not to treat every woman I met as a sex object, I had no will or defense against being treated as a sex object. I found it no more satisfying being a sex object than it was dealing with people as objects. So one day in May, sitting alone in the room I rented in Chico, I delved deeply into what that meant and who I might be. I was wondering that if I wasn't a sport or a macho man or a playboy, and if the unsolicited attentions of women were not desired, then was I a girly man? Did not being a whole person in touch with my feminine nature entail being maybe, perhaps, just a little gay, queer, homo? What did this mean? There was a gay community in my hometown, Delano, when I was growing up. Some people were obviously gay and their sexual bent was sort of common but not explicit knowledge. There was a public employee who was as overtly gay as possible in Delano in those days, limp-wristed and artistic, and some people shunned him for it, but he was a friend of our family from before my birth, and throughout my childhood, every year at Christmas, he and his wife, it's a marriage of convenience, would give us a box of chocolates, good ones, and my folks would let us kids eat up the box. I liked them both, and I looked forward to their gift. My folks both told me that indeed he was gay, but that Dad had always been a good friend, and unless he tried to force himself on someone in the family, he would remain so. I was going to drop this here after mentioning that my parents' tolerance contributed to my understanding, and then continue with my Air Force friends' contribution to my understanding. And I will do that. But first, I will tell you something that I had not thought of in years until writing this now. While I was stationed in France during military service, I heard that our gay friend had lost his job, and this is the reason I was giving. He worked in a building on the same block as the city police department, and the town jail was just outside the back door of his workplace. It seems he kept the bottle of whiskey in the mop closet near the jail, and he would lure trustees let out to clean up the area with the whiskey into the closet to do the nasty. One day the police threw open the door and caught him with his pants down, literally. Writing now, I think that part of his thrill was having the police station just outside a flimsy door, and, I imagine, he must have exploded when that door was thrown open. When I went into the Air Force at 17, I had scarcely been outside of Delano, and I was not so naive that when I became good friends with a fellow airman, it was more than a year after we met that he told me bluntly that he was happily homosexual. Well, that explained his friends, who seemed a queer lot, but he was such a nice guy, and because of my parents' tolerance, we continued as friends throughout our military service and corresponded after discharge. He returned to Rhode Island, and I went to college in Long Beach, California, but after a couple of years, he moved to California too, and it worked out that he and I and a third man, my friend since first grade, Tony, newly divorced, shared an apartment for about 6 months, and this was very educational. My hometown mate was every bit the womanizer and partier that I was, but sometimes we would accompany Bill on his rounds of gay bars. There are many of them with different bars for different orientations, men for men, women for women, couples for couples. Another learning experience was returning home late one evening to find a gay party spread throughout the apartment. Guys dancing and necking all over the place, on couches, on chairs, on the floor. Bill made sure to extend my education another way by telling me and giving me books about the sexual mores and practices of entire cultures, as well as of particular individuals who were homosexuality and where homosexuality and achievement intertwined. He made it clear, though, that his contention was that sexual bent had no bearing on achievement, but rather was randomly dispersed throughout time and peoples that, regardless of when or where, about 10% of men and women, rich and poor, dark and light, northern and southern, talented and inept, were homosexual. He provided plenty of documentation, enough to make me think that it's true still today. Probably 1 in 10 who read this letter is gay. Probably 1 in 10 of your family and among your workmates and in your religious community is gay. Does this give you pause to think? Once Bill told me that he loved me, and I didn't understand that, and I told him. He said that it didn't matter because we were friends. And I'm sorry to say that I lost track of him, and though I have tried to reach him with these letters, there has been no success. He's probably dead because he was promiscuous when AIDS was casually and unknowingly spread. But I am thankful for his friendship and thank him for it here in the hope that he will see this one day. In the years after I graduated college, I traveled to various places, and every once in a while, some guy would make a pass at me. It happened in South Dakota and San Francisco and South America. No details here. To illustrate, I'll include a copy of Memory of Panama that I wrote years ago. But to bring this letter back to my room in Chicago, in Chico, in May of 1973, those memories and being put off by the attention of wanton women had me wondering where I fit into the scheme of things. It had all come to a head because the man who lived up the street, a professional dancer of fine features, dark complexion, and a lithe body, intelligent and charming, said he wanted to have sex with me. He told me, as had others before, that I didn't know what I was missing and to just give it a try. But I did not find him appealing in a sexual way, and this dialogue, which I had had with myself various times since I had begun to abandon rules, played out in my head. Ego. Well, you know that isn't so. Sexuality doesn't have to do with the act of sex so much as with a way of being. If all you want to do is end this silly dialogue, then why not come out of the closet, admit your homosexuality, and then go on about your life? I grabbed a pen and I wrote this down. A poem by Eric Parsons. There is magic in words. I'm homosexual, to be repeated occasionally. Indeed, there is magic in words, and this poem is the proof, because since I wrote it, I've never been troubled to wonder about my sexual nature again. Like Popeye, I am what I am, and that's all what I am. When I proofread this letter to Tina, she reminded me that I had read the little poem to her after we had been married for only a couple of months. She said she didn't understand it then, and she wondered for some time about leaving me for being perverted. And she didn't understand it now, and she didn't think that I should share it in this letter. I agreed with her in that, by many standards, only a fool publicly labels himself homosexually, while others will feel that making the claim is offensive to ones with a better right to do it. But I liked the letter, so twice more I read it for Tina, but with mutual friends present. We had open discussion, and it worked out enough for Tina to tell me to go ahead and mail it out, because what came out of the discussion was the power of words and writing as a purge. What did you understand? I'm closing with a wish for peace and love, but I want to throw out one more claim for your consideration. I'm black. Eric.